Okay, so in this video, we are going to talk about the iterative statements. Okay, when we talk about iterative statements in Python, there are two types. First is your for loop, and another one is your while loop, right? So the first one is the for loop, and another one is your while loop. So when we talk about iterative statements, the for loop will have certain conditions it will work over, and also while loop will have certain conditions it will work over. However, when we talk about for loop, it has a built-in mechanism to iterate over a sequence, right? And when we talk about while loop, we have to explicitly mention the condition in which the loop will run on, right? So when usually what happens is while that condition is true, the while loop will run, and in case of for loop, while that sequence is there, the loop will run, right? So that we have to understand in here. So if you look into the for loop in here, if you look into the for loop in here, here we can see that this one is using a range in here, right? So this is for I in range 1 to 6, and it prints the number from 1 to 5 in here. So it prints I in here, right? So I is your, in here, I is basically your each of this element, which is selected one by one once the for loop runs, right? So the range is from 1 to 6, and in here, when you talk about range, the upper bound, which is this one, the upper bound will not be counted. Only the inner bound as well as all the other elements will be counted, right? So that is what we have to understand in here. So when we give a range, it gives out a range which is from, from the starting one, which is the inner bound, to one less than the outer bound, which is in this case it is 6. So this will be from 1 to 5. So it will print from 1 to 5. So the upper bound will not be there, right? So that is what you have to understand in here. Since the only conditional statement in here is your print I say it is a conditional statement as in like after if this condition follows, like if the for conditions follows, well, like as in the I is still in the range, then it only prints I, right? So when I talk about conditional statements, I'm not talking about this conditional statement. It's like these conditional statements are your only if and else and else, right? So these are conditional statements. But when I'm talking about in here, it is this block of code, print I, only works when your for I range uh, in 1 to 6 satisfies. So if it satisfies between the elements from 1 to 5, it will run, and the upper bound is obviously not counted, right? So that is what we have to understand in here, right? Next we have to understand is that since we can make a range, the range typically, if you assign a range to certain variable, it will usually give you a tuple in return. So basically it equates back to a tuple which has 1 2 3 4 5 elements, right? Similarly, we can use, rather than tuple, which is outputted by the rain function, we can go back to using lists. So this list is assigned in here. This variable list is assigned in here, and we have three elements in here, which is apple, banana, and cherry. Right now, in here, I have written as yeah, for fruit in fruits, print fruit. Right. So fruits is the original variable in here, and for each fruit, right? For each fruit, there is a loop going on, and for that loop, it will print the fruit whatever the fruit it is in that position. So so in here, the fruits is the whole list in here, and when we talk about fruit, it is individual elements. These individual elements once the for loop runs, right? So it will sequentially print apple, banana, and cherry. Okay. Now, since we have understood this one, let's try to do the practicals of this one. Okay, let's try to do the practicals of this one. IDLE, right? IDLE. Right, so we have this IDLE. This is the interactive mode in here, but we will use the script mode rather than using the, uh, you know, interactive mode. We will going to be using your script mode. So script mode is this one, right? You will get an untitled window in this one. So the best way to go forward with this one is to actually save the file. Okay. So you go and save as, click on save as from the file menu, and then select your folder. So my folder will be in documents, and in documents we have to go to where? We have to go to this practical project. And once we have been in here, you will now name the file as what it does. So this is for loop, so I will just name it as for loop, right? And I do not have to give the extension in here, right? Extension I do not have to give because it is already set in here, right? So for loop, I have done it and I have saved it. Now let's write this code. I always tell that you should actually type out the code, because if you do not type out the code, you will never learn how to type fast enough, so that when you're actually making the code, your hands will work faster as well. Right. So now we will go with this. Okay. So this is using range. So in this we are using range. Okay, we are using range. So for I in range 1 comma 6, right? And this will print you. This will print 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4 comma 5. So it will print till 5, right? Because making a function in here, and I'm only printing the I variable, which is which is the iterative variable, which is going in this for loop, right? And the next one which will we do is like the fruits one, right? So when we talk about fruits one is what? This one, right? So it will be what? Apple. Then we have banana. Okay, we have Mr. inverted comma. Let's put that banana. And then we have something called cherry, right? We have this one. Okay. And then for fruit, in fruits, we have something in here. So in this case, because a fruit is each of this element in this fruit variable, which is a list variable, and list is a collective data type. So it will loop with each of these elements in this variable. So we will just put this and print fruit this time, right? This is done. All right. Now, once we run this, do not forget to press Control S to run. Do not press Control S to save, and then you should run F5, or you could just use this UI in here to run the run module. Okay, so let's see. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 apple, and then you have apple, banana, and cherry, right? So you have these things. Okay, so that is a use case of for loop. Okay, so let me just save this, and we are out of here, right? So that is how the for loop and while loop works, right? So I've only given you the example of for loop, but I will in the next video I will try to give you the example of while loop, right? I will try to give the examples of while loop.